The maintenance bay of Kepler 442b mining station hummed with the familiar sounds of grinding metal and hissing hydraulics. Marcus Rivera wiped grease from his calloused hands, surveying the damaged cargo hauler before him. Had spent 8 years fixing ships on this remote colony, far from the political tensions that plagued the inner systems. The pay was decent, the work honest, and most importantly, nobody asked too many questions about his past. A soft crash echoed. From the storage area behind his workshop, Marcus grabbed a wrench, moving cautiously toward the sound. Pirates occasionally tried to steal equipment, though security was usually tight. Quesa, as he rounded the corner between stacked supply crates, he stopped dead in his tracks. A woman lay crumpled against a metal container, her breathing shallow and labored. But this wasn't just any woman. Her skin held a subtle, pearl-like luminescence, and delicate silver markings traced patterns along her exposed arms. She was Veleth, one of the alien species currently at odds with the human colonial government. Her dark purple hair was matted with something that looked suspiciously like dried blood. Marcus glanced toward the bay entrance, then back at the injured alien. Harboring a Veleth could mean serious prison time, especially given the recent border skirmishes. The smart move would be to contact colony security immediately. Instead, he found himself kneeling beside her, checking for signs of life. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises the color of deep amber. Fear flashed across her delicate features as she tried to scramble backward, pressing herself against the container. She spoke rapidly in her native language, words flowing like liquid. Music, despite her obvious distress. Marcus raised both hands peacefully. "Easy there, I'm not going to hurt you." He kept his voice low and calm, the same tone he used with frightened animals back on Earth. "You're hurt, let me help." She studied his face intently, as if trying to read his intentions. Her breathing began to slow, though she remained tense and ready to bolt. Marcus noticed the tears in her clothing, the bruises darkening her pale skin, and what appeared to be restraint marks around her wrists. Moving slowly, he reached for a clean cloth from his workbench. "Water," he said simply, gesturing to his mouth and then to her. Understanding flickered in her amber eyes, and she nodded slightly. As Marcus helped her drink, he noticed how carefully she moved, as if every motion caused pain. Whatever had happened, to her, it hadn't been an accident. The evidence painted a picture he didn't like thinking about. "My name is Marcus," he said, pointing to himself. She watched his lips form the word, then tentatively repeated it in her melodic accent. "Marcus." She placed a trembling hand over her heart. "Senna," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the workshop's ambient noise. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest at the sound of her name, and this was dangerous territory, both politically and personally. He had built his life around avoiding complications, staying below the radar, keeping things simple. But looking at Zena's frightened, yet determined expression, he realized Simple had just walked out the airlock. "Okay, Xana," he said softly. "Let's get you somewhere safe." Helped her to her feet, surprised by how light she felt despite being nearly as tall as himself. Her legs trembled with the effort of standing, but she refused to lean on him completely, maintaining what dignity she could. Marcus admired that kind of strength. His small living quarters above the workshop weren't much, but they were private and secure. As he guided Xena up the narrow stairs, Marcus found himself wondering what forces had driven her to seek refuge in his little corner of the galaxy. Whatever the story, he had a feeling his quiet life was about to become significantly more complicated. But as Xena's fingers briefly brushed his arm in gratitude, Marcus discovered he didn't mind the complication nearly as much as he should have. Healing Heart's 3 days had passed since Marcus found Xena in his workshop, and each day brought new revelations. She was healing faster than he had expected. Though she still moved carefully and spoke in whispers, they had developed a basic communication system using gestures, simple words, and drawings on his tablet computer. Marcus had cleared out his small storage room, setting up a comfortable space with extra blankets and pillows. He insisted she take his bed while he slept on the couch, despite her protests. The language barrier made detailed conversations impossible, but her expressive eyes conveyed gratitude better than words ever could. This morning was different. Zena was sitting up when he brought her breakfast, and there was color returning to her pearl-tinted cheeks. She had attempted to braid her long purple hair, though the effort clearly tired her. Marcus set the tray down and noticed her studying his hands as he arranged the food. "Thank you," she said carefully in accented English. The words were halting but clear. Marcus looked up in surprise. "You've been listening to my language files." Nodded, touching the tablet where he had loaded basic English lessons. "I learn fast. Need to... speak to you." Over the following hours, Zena's story emerged in broken but increasingly fluent English. She had been born into a noble family on the Valith homeworld, but political upheaval had left her father dead and her family's status destroyed. To settle debts and secure alliances, her uncle had arranged her marriage to Commander Thane, brutal military leader known for his cruelty toward both enemies and wives. "I ran," she whispered, her amber eyes dark with memory. "On wedding day. Stole transport ship, but they followed." Marcus felt anger building in his chest as she described her escape and capture. The questioning sessions designed to break her spirit before dragging her back. She had managed one final escape during a fuel stop, stealing a small pod and crash landing on Caplera 4 for 2B. "You're brave," Marcus said simply, and something warm flickered in her expression as evening approached. Marcus was cleaning Zena's cuts when she suddenly placed her hand over his. Her skin felt impossibly soft, and he noticed the way her silver markings seemed to shimmer in the lamplight. "Marcus," she said quietly, "why help me? Dangerous for humans to help Valith now." He met her gaze, considering how to explain something. He didn't fully understand himself because it was right, because he needed help, because ... paused, then decided on honesty. "Because when I look at you, I don't see an alien or an enemy. I see someone who deserves better than what she's been given." Zena's eyes glistened, and she leaned forward slightly. For a moment, Marcus thought she might kiss him, but instead she rested her forehead against his, a gesture that seemed intimate in a way that transcended species. "Your people and mine," she whispered. "They say we cannot be friends. But you show me kindness when your own kind would not." Marcus felt the warmth of her breath against his face and realized how close they had grown. Her alien features no longer seemed strange to him. They were simply Zena, beautiful, strong, and increasingly precious to him. "Maybe," he said softly, "our people are wrong about a lot of things." She pulled back slightly to look at him, and in her amber eyes, he saw the same confusing mix of emotions that had been building in his own heart. This was dangerous territory, but as Zena's fingers intertwined with his, Marcus found he was past caring about danger. The morning peace shattered when alarms began blaring throughout the colony. Marcus bolted upright from his couch, immediately alert. Through his workshop windows, he could see security vehicles racing toward the docking bays. Zena appeared. In the doorway of her room, her face pale with understanding. "They found me," she whispered. Marcus was already moving, grabbing emergency supplies and shoving them into a bag. Not necessarily, could be anything. But even as he spoke, his personal communicator chimed with an urgent message from Colony. "Security, all residents were to report for questioning regarding harboring fugitive aliens. A Valith military vessel had arrived with extradition warrants." Zena's knees nearly gave out, but Marcus caught her arm. "Hey, look at me. We're not giving up. I know these tunnels better than anyone." The mining colony's underground maintenance network stretched 4 kilometers, connecting every major system. Marcus had mapped most of it during his years here, often. Using the quiet tunnels for repairs and parts storage, they could reach the old mining shafts, they could make it to his ship. They moved quickly through Marcus's workshop, gathering tools and supplies. Zena's movements were fluid now, her injuries nearly healed thanks to her species' remarkable recovery abilities. As they prepared to leave, she caught his hand. "Marcus, if they catch us together, they will hurt you badly. Leave me. Save yourself." Turned to face her fully. "That's not happening. We're in this together now." Something shifted in her expression, a recognition of the depth of his commitment. Without warning, she pulled him closer and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was desperate, grateful, and filled with emotions neither could fully express in words. When they separated, both were breathing hard. "Then we run together," she said firmly. The maintenance entrance was clear, but Marcus could hear search teams moving through the upper levels. He led Xena into the dimly lit tunnel network there, footsteps echoing softly in the confined space. The passages were narrow, forcing them to move single file, with Marcus leading the way. 20 minutes into their escape, they heard voices behind them. The search had reached the tunnels. Marcus quickened the pace, taking increasingly complex routes through intersections he hoped would confuse their pursuers. They paused at a junction where 4 tunnels met. Catching their breath, Xena was keeping up well, but Marcus could see the strain in her face. He pulled out his portable scanner, checking for life signs ahead. "Clear for now," he whispered. "We're about halfway to the mining sector." Suddenly, a deep voice echoed. Through the tunnels behind them, speaking in the Valeth language, Xena went rigid, her face draining of color. "Dane," she breathed. "He came himself." The voice called out again, closer now, and this time spoke in accented English. "Marcus Rivera, human mechanic. You have something that belongs to me. Return her unharmed, and you will live." Marcus felt Xena trembling beside him. Without hesitation, he wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "He's wrong," he whispered against her ear. "Belong to anyone." She looked up at him with wonder and something deeper, something that made his heart race despite their desperate situation. "How did I become so fortunate to find you?" "We found each other," Marcus corrected, then kissed her forehead gently. "And now let's make sure we keep finding each other." They continued deeper into the tunnel system, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter, but never disappearing entirely. Marcus knew they were buying time, not escaping completely. But with each step, he felt more certain that whatever happened next, facing it with Xena, was exactly where he belonged. Love's Sanctuary, the abandoned mining facility, sat like a medal skeleton against the alien landscape, its empty chambers echoing with the memory of extracted ore and distant dreams. Marcus led Xena through a concealed entrance he had discovered months ago, sealing the heavy door behind them. For the first time in hours, they were truly alone and relatively safe. Emergency lighting cast long shadows as they made their way to the facility's former supervisor quarters. Marcus had stashed emergency supplies here long ago, part of his habitual preparation for unexpected situations. That caution was paying dividends he had never imagined. Xena sank onto the simple bed, exhaustion finally showing in her posture. The chase through the tunnels had pushed her healing body to its limits, but she had never complained, never slowed them down. Marcus found himself admiring her strength even more. "We should be safe here for tonight," he said, activating a small heating unit. "The facility's been closed for 2 years. Thane's search teams won't think to look here immediately." She nodded, then looked up at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Marcus, what happens tomorrow? Next week? We cannot run forever." He sat beside her on the narrow bed, close enough to feel her warmth. "I have a ship, modified cargo hauler, with enhanced engines and life support. We could reach the neutral stations near the Centauri cluster."
"And then?"
she asked softly. Marcus realized he had been avoiding that question himself. "Then we figure it out. Together." Xena studied his face in the dim light. "You would leave everything, your work, your home, your life here. For someone like me? Someone like you?" Marcus turned to face her fully. "Xena, you're brave, intelligent, kind, and stronger than anyone I've ever known. And ... He paused, the words caught in his throat. She reached up to touch his cheek, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw with delicate precision. "And," she prompted gently. "And I'm falling in love with you," he admitted. "I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for days, from different species, in the middle of running for our lives. But I can't imagine going back to the way things were before you crashed into my workshop." Xena's amber eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Not crazy," she whispered. "I feel the same impossible thing. In my language, we have a phrase, Shenter Velis, It means heart recognizes heart, regardless of all barriers. She leaned closer, and this time when they kissed, it wasn't desperate or hurried. It was deep and searching, full of promise and discovery. Marcus felt something fundamental shift inside him as her arms wound around his neck, pulling him closer. "Me," she breathed against his lips. "Show me what it means to be chosen freely, not commanded or demanded." Marcus's hands traced the silver markings along her arms, marveling at how they seemed to respond to his touch with gentle light. Every caress was answered with soft gasps of pleasure. Every kiss deepened their connection beyond the physical dot. In the quiet sanctuary of the abandoned facility, surrounded by the vast emptiness of space, two souls from different worlds discovered that love could indeed transcend every boundary except the ones they chose to honor. Later, as they lay entwined in the narrow bed, Xena traced patterns on Marcus's chest with her fingertip. "Tomorrow, we leave this place," she said quietly. "Tomorrow we start our real life," Marcus corrected, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." "Together," she agreed, and in that single word, Marcus heard all the promises they had made without speaking. All the futures they would build despite the odds. Dawn broke over Kepler 44 to be with deceptive tranquility. But Marcus knew their time was running out. Scanner sweeps were getting closer to the mining facility, and Thane's forces had cordoned off the primary departure routes. Their window for escape was closing rapidly. Marcus worked quickly to prep his modified cargo hauler. The Wandering Star, while Xena monitored security frequencies from the cockpit, the ship was his masterpiece, a beaten-up freighter that looked unremarkable from the outside but housed military-grade engines and enhanced life support systems he had installed over the years. 3 patrol ships in orbital positions, Xena reported, her English now confident and clear. "They are scanning all departing vessels." Marcus sealed the final access panel and wiped his hands. "Then we don't depart, we launch." His plan was desperate but simple. Use the mining facility's old or catapult to launch them directly into space, bypassing the normal departure lanes entirely. The catapult hadn't been used in years and was never designed for manned vehicles. But Marcus had calculated the trajectories. It could work. As they strapped into the pilot and co-pilot seats, Xena reached for his hand. "If this fails, ... It won't," Marcus said firmly, then softened his tone. "But if it does, I'm glad I'm with you." She squeezed his fingers. "No regrets?" He looked at her, this incredible woman who had transformed his life in a matter of days. Her purple hair caught the morning light streaming through the cockpit windows, and her amber eyes held steady confidence in him and their future together. "Only one," he said, "that it took so long to find you." The catapult engaged with a bone-jarring acceleration that pressed them deep into their seats. The cargo hauler shot through the facility's launch tube like a bullet, emerging into the thin atmosphere at tremendous velocity. Alarms screamed as the patrol ships detected their unscheduled departure. But Marcus was already engaging the enhanced engines. "Hang on," he called to Xena as the ship bucked and rolled through atmospheric turbulence. She was gripping her seat. Restraints but watching the tactical display with the focused attention of someone evaluating their chances. "Pursuit vessels are converging," she reported calmly. "Estimated intercept in 43 minutes. Marcus smiled grimly and pushed the engines past their recommended limits. "Then we'd better be somewhere else in 42 minutes. The Wandering Star streaked toward the edge of the system, its modified engines outperforming anything in the colonial fleet. Behind them, Thane's forces struggled to match their acceleration, falling steadily behind as Marcus executed a series of course corrections that only someone with his precise, calm knowledge of local space could manage. As they cleared the gravity well and prepared for the jump to hyperspace, Xena began to relax, for the first time since their escape began. She was studying the star charts for their destination when Marcus made an announcement. "Computer record. Personal log. Marcus Rivera, former resident of Kepler 44 colony. I'm hereby claiming salvage rights on one Valeth refugee designation, my heart. Finders keepers, as we say. Zena laughed, the first truly joyful sound he had heard from her. I object to being designated as salvage. How about beloved partner and co-pilot? Marcus suggested. Much better. And I hereby claim salvage rights on one stubborn human mechanic who risks everything for love. Marcus engaged the hyperdrive, and the stars stretched into brilliant lines around them. They were jumping toward Centauri Station, a neutral port, where humans and Valeth could coexist without fear. It would be their first real home together, Susanna said, as the ship settled into the smooth rhythm of hyperspace travel. What do we do when we reach the station? Marcus unbuckled from his pilot's seat and moved to stand beside her. We find a place to live. I'll look for mechanical work. You can decide what you want to do with a life that's actually yours to choose. She stood and moved into his arms, fitting against him as if they had been designed for each other, and us, as Marcus said. Kissing her softly, we figure out. Together, one day at a time, one choice at a time, for as long as we want. Forever, then, Zena whispered against his lips. Forever, Marcus agreed. And as the wandering star carried them toward their new life among the stars, he knew that some journeys were worth every risk, every sacrifice, every leap of faith into the unknown. Outside the viewports, the universe stretched endlessly before them, full of possibilities and worlds where love could flourish without boundaries or fear.